Hello there. I was going to live stream this, but I am still brand new to making videos or doing YouTube stuff. So apparently, you need 24 hours to get verified. So I wanted to make the video anyway. We're going to do it this way. Apparently, my new thing in life is that Marvel shit, which is something I love, the MCU, Marvel Studios, was the thing that brought me some of the most joy in life in terms of fiction. And now it's all garbage. So we're going to talk about how garbage it is and how it can be less garbage. The only thing I've done to date was the Black Widow video where I was essentially the experiment there, and I will probably do more if I have more things that strike me that kind of way. Was from the perspective of a screenwriter trying to say, was there a way to salvage this? Can we make cut a couple more drafts over the script, or a little bit of leeway with the doing another pass on the writing? Could it have fixed it? In my opinion, yeah, it could have. If you like that video, maybe you agree. If not, okay, too bad. Um, Now we're going to review the most recent thing they've released, which is the first episode of What If. What if Peggy Carter became Captain America or whatever? Captain Carter, that one. There's no saving this one, so that's not what we're going to do here, but I was still going through it and just realizing they don't understand the concept of the What If comic book that it's based off, or at least they do, but they didn't stick to it, and they just don't understand consistent storytelling or character writing in any way whatsoever. So what we're gonna do here is I don't, like I said, I'm not very tech savvy. I don't know how to share streaming or record on my screen to have it up on screen. It's probably safer for YouTube not to anyway. So basically, I'm gonna go through the episode, which I've already seen. Just to gather my thoughts, I'm gonna go through it step by step, pick out everything as it comes, and explain to you why it doesn't make any sense. So if you haven't seen the first episode of What If, go watch it. Or don't. You just watch this. I personally don't recommend it. It's not very good. That's why I'm doing this. So I'm going to start the video. We're going to go through it, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts. You'll notice pretty quickly it does not take long for this thing to go off the rails, because they completely throw the concept of What If out in like the first minute. So I'm going to go ahead and start it, and I will tell you my thoughts. I'm going to skip through the opening sequence. Alright, little watcher intro. I do like Jeffrey Wright's voice. I think he's a good pick for Uatu. Alright. Nazi army marches across Europe. Steve doing the super soldier thing. Okay, he's just recapping what happened in the original. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. A single choice created a whole new hero. That's the premise of What If. That's kind of what it was in the comic book. It's different than DC's Elseworlds, where in an Elseworlds story, you can just make up whatever the hell you want. Frank Miller did, Dark Knight Returns. This is a far-flung future Batman, and all this stuff is very different, takes place in a different universe. Gotham by Gaslight, same thing. Any other Elseworld story from DC, it's have at it, make your own thing, doesn't have to be canon, do whatever you want. What If was different. The point of the What If comics, and I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not going to pretend I have vast knowledge. I haven't actually read most of them. I've seen a few in whatever, trade paperback collections I have of certain series. A lot of them usually start with the premise of what if this one thing happened differently, and how would that affect the progression of the rest of the story? So they pick an actual comic book issue and go, this is how it happened before. If we tweak this one little thing and move it over here, how does that change it? And sometimes it yields great results. Sometimes it's kind of boring and meh, whatever. The show seems to understand that. And that's where it starts. One choice, they start with Captain America the First Avenger, and one choice makes things play out completely differently. Or does it? Let's continue. Okay. There, that's the moment that created a new universe. Hold on, let's hear the rest of what he has to say. When asked to leave the room, Margaret Peggy Carter chose to stay. So, already, immediately at the start of this episode, it's not like a shot for shot recreation of Captain America the First Avenger. Like, physically, the events are already taking place differently than they did in the movie. So, if you want to jump off the train now and just say I'm wrong and crazy, and clearly it was never meant to be exactly the same, they're just kind of exploring a fun thing and there's no rules, okay, fine, then it's not really What If, and I don't particularly like it, and I don't think that the other episodes are going to be good, because if this is the way they're approaching it, where they're not taking the thing that was and slightly altering it to get it to yield a different result, then they are just making up a bunch of bullshit. So, if that's the case, fine. When the scene starts, Steve and Peggy are up in the observation booth, looking down, having a conversation, wearing different clothes than they wore in the movie. When they go down, Steve's not on the table yet. He's not taking his clothes off. They're not preparing the experiment yet. And then they have their moment. The moment that shifts the universe and makes everything change. Now it's totally different because Peggy Carter said no. So, the big choice is Dr. Erskine, the scientist in charge of the Super Soldier Project. In the movie, also I just watched the movie, so I'm fresh. I already remembered it pretty well, but I did it just as a refresher. She's looking at Steve. She's down there. She's the only person down there because everybody else is a scientist. All the other military and civilian and press personnel are up in the observation booth, because that's what happens when you're viewing a military experiment for the first time. Non-essential personnel up in the observation booth, where it's safe and where they're out of the way of the experiment so they don't screw anything up. So in the movie, he says, Agent Carter, wouldn't you be more comfortable in the observation booth? She's like, oh, right, of course. And then she leaves, not because she's a woman being told to get the fuck out because it's the 40s and feminism and blah, 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 but because it's protocol. You're not supposed to be there. And because she's a good agent, a good government employee, she knows that and does the proper thing and goes with everybody else where they're supposed to be. In the show, they immediately posit that the only reason that happened and that Erskine told her to leave is because of sexism, because she's a lady, and ladies can't be around for science experiments, even though everybody else also leaves and goes up to the booth. The reality is, that's not her goddamn choice. She has to go, or she needs to get the fuck out of the building. You can't be on the lab floor for the experiment. Not because of sexism, it's because you're not supposed to be there. You're in the wrong place, you need to leave. So the show immediately starts off with, that's the thing that altered everything. Peggy stood up and put her hands on her hips and said, I'm a strong woman and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be down here with the boys. Which can't happen and wouldn't happen, and also was completely irrelevant to the original movie. But that's the thing that alters the universe and makes her Captain Carter instead of Captain Britain, which I know Captain Britain's a different character and he's not related to the Super Soldier program usually. But, like, branding, you know? Like, she's wearing the flag and all that stuff. Like, you might as well call her Captain Britain. Because that's the thing. Inherently, this is not a bad idea. I wanted to see this episode. I was excited for this. I'm like, I wonder how they're going to do it. It's going to be cool. We're going to have Peggy as Captain Britain. Like, what if someone else were chosen? What if, for some reason, either something happened to Steve or she was the best candidate? You know? It could have been a cool concept. I was really excited for it. They didn't do that. So, this is what we got. So that whole thing happens, and then that's meant to be the impetus for why this is a different universe, why everything has changed. and why Steve does not become Captain America, and instead Peggy becomes Captain Carter. If we continue watching, that immediately falls through. Creating a new world. Oh, nobody else went up there either. They're all down on the floor too. So nobody's in the observation booth. Okay. Alright. I don't specifically remember the assassin's name. I think it's like Hans Kruger or something. So what happens next, what actually changes the whole universe, not Peggy's arbitrary decision to be a strong woman, is that everything plays out completely differently than it did in the movie for story-based reasons. Meaning in the movie they happen for story-based reasons. In the show, they just happen. Because her choice didn't actually affect anything, because it's not actually a big, strong choice that matters. It was stupid and made no sense. And everything that happens next is also stupid. It makes no sense. But they have to happen for the rest of the story to happen, because literally they're wrong. That's not the choice. The choice didn't do anything. Because if the choice requires 17 other things that happen in Captain America the First Avenger to happen completely differently, guess what? That choice didn't matter, the story wasn't contingent upon it, and the what-if concept's already been broken. So now that we have that out of the way, what happens next is the guy, the assassin in the original movie, what happened was Red Skull sent him there to observe the experiment because he knew it worked once on himself. But as far as he was aware, he didn't actually know for sure that Erskine could pull it off again. And he knew that he couldn't let him if he could. So, the reason the assassin, the Hydra assassin, was there was to observe the experiment. See if it worked. If it did work, kill Erskine so he can't do it again. And then steal a sample of the improved serum to take it back to Red Skull so that he could potentially make his own super soldier army. Which is why in the movie, everybody goes up to the observation booth, they start the experiment, Steve becomes Captain America, and then once everybody's shaking hands and congratulating him, he leaves a little explosive device, the cigarette case, I think, up in the booth, and I think there might still be some people up there, I can't recall, but he sets that off more so as a distraction rather than anything else. And then when everybody's dealing with the explosion looking at that, he takes a vial of the serum, shoots Erskine, and tries to make his exit, and then Peggy tries to stop him, shoots at him, but it's too late, he's dead, Steve's out there, and then he pursues the guy. In this, before the experiment even begins, down on the floor in the lab, because again, we've already changed everything, I guess you could argue... Alright, I'm going to back up and play devil's advocate for myself here, because I am spitballing this off the top of my head. Maybe Peggy's choice did change everything. Maybe her staying meant all the guys had to fucking compensate for their fucking small dick energy and go, well, if the woman's going to stay down here, we're going to stay down here too. Fuck it. Because then in the scene, literally everybody stands down there instead of up in the safe observation area where they should be. And then Hines, I think is his name, he decides to set off the explosion down there in the lab. So, again, my original premise, even if that is true and everybody decided to stay down there, protocol still should have mandated that the MPs in the room go, get the fuck in the booth and out of the lab and stop fucking up this experiment. It was very expensive and Uncle Sam cannot afford for you to fuck this. So go up there, stop being babies, and do what you're supposed to be doing. Anyway, regardless, they're all down there, and then he sets off the explosive, and then it blows up some of the equipment, but not all of it. So the chamber, the rebirth chamber, is fine, because Steve's over there, he's in the chamber. But he blows up some of the equipment, which then... I don't know. We'll go through this to get a little bit of clarity, because it's very confusing, and none of it really lines up. But basically, he damages the actual lab equipment they need for the experiment to turn Steve into a super soldier. But not all the way, just some of the way. Let me clarify this real quick. Let the scene play out. Steve pops out of the thing. He tries to stop the guy. He steals the serum. And then Peggy immediately stops him and shoots him. So he's dead. And Steve is hurt. Power levels are dropping. And all the men try to do everything possible to prevent a woman from having to get into the chamber. Yeah. Anybody but Peggy. Also, they had to pretty much completely replace Tommy Lee Jones' character with Bradley Whitford's character from Agent Carter. Yeah, okay. Alright, let's skip forward a little bit. So they put her in, they do the thing. She gets super soldiered. She comes out looking fucking beefy as all hell. Which a lot of people have been complaining about, and I'm not going to give them too much crap for it. Because with all the different ridiculous versions of the super soldier serum we've heard, what we do know about the original serum is it does take the original host and essentially, we don't know if it alters their DNA or if it just, I don't know, steroids them, but more or less it alters your physiology to the point of peak human physical condition, which can mean anything in comics, but in the movie, and for most interpretations, it seems to mean that it takes you to basically the height of what any human being could achieve in one field of physical athleticism. So, like, take every Olympic athlete from every event, deadlifting, sprinting, 100-meter dash, pole vault, what do they call it, hurdle, acrobatics, all that stuff. No one person can be the best at all of those things because those all require different body types. With this magical scientific super serum, essentially can make you so perfect that you can be the best at all of those things. So you are the best any human could possibly be physically. So I don't mind her being bulked up. It's a shame though that everybody else tried to make it like a vow because of they just put a woman's head on a man's body, and I'm like, yeah, kinda. I mean, but she would be bigger though. I assume it would alter her physiology a bit because Haley Atwell's like a regular sized lady. She's probably like 5'6", 5'7", or something like that. And Steve was like a really small dude. He was like 5'2", tiny, skinny, emaciated man. So they both have room to grow. Like, neither one of them is peak human condition. So yeah, she would turn into like a 6'2" monstrous super soldier. Shame they got rid of her tits. That's my big problem. Haley Atwell's got like the best boobs in the business. All due respect to Haley Atwell. She's a beautiful lady. I don't know why you'd want to get rid of those, but I do know the actual answer, which is Disney doesn't like boobs. Disney doesn't like women. So so that all happens. Let's backtrack a little bit. So, like I said, already they've had to completely shift the events. Rather than it happening the way it happened before, he blew up the bomb down there, which damaged some of the equipment. What equipment? I don't know. Not the chamber, and I guess not whatever panels Stark had to work, but their generator or something? Don't know, doesn't explain it, because they're losing power. They still have power, but they're going to lose it. So now it's like a ticking clock element. So we got to put someone in there if we want a super soldier, but nobody wants it to be the girl, because she's a girl. I would say, arguably, in the room, she is the best candidate. But my point is, they picked a bad event to be the impetus of the alternate timeline, where things are different now. And they're also not even paying attention to that fact. Everything changes arbitrarily based on whether or not that would change anything else. Because the answer is, that wouldn't change shit, because that doesn't matter. The not leaving the room when asked thing is completely misinterpreted, because this is Disney's bag now, if you've watched Loki or a lot of their shows. It's women, strong women, fucking, we gotta make all the women more powerful and gotta make a statement about how strong women can be. Which means when men tell you to do stuff that is, A, not an option because it's military protocol, and B, good advice from a doctor and scientifically viable and you should listen to it, you should just say no. Because men shouldn't tell ladies what to do, ever. Even if it involves super science and military funding. Don't listen, ladies. Launch that nuke. Fuck it. Doesn't matter. So that doesn't relate to anything else. That's what alters everything. But how, though? Like I said, I guess there was a connection there I missed the first time. But I am interpreting it. The show doesn't tell me this. There's no reason to think this. I'm trying to fill in the gaps based on what they've showed me, and that's already bad. That shouldn't have to happen. They should be able to perfectly illustrate exactly what they mean. So if what they mean is that this woman basically was trying to make a power move and say, fuck you, I'm not leaving. And then all the guys went, well, if she's not leaving, we're not leaving. And then all the scientists and military personnel in the room didn't tell them to all shut up and just do it anyway because that's what you're supposed to do, because that's protocol. Basically, everybody has to be a dumbass for this to matter, or to change the events of Captain America the First Avenger. But it happens. So, Peggy becomes a super soldier, Steve gets wounded, Erskine's dead. Also, that's the other thing, too. The guy doesn't go on a merry chase, obviously, because there's no super soldier to catch, to run after him. So instead, Peggy just succeeds at the thing she failed at the first time in the original movie, which is shoot the guy. Because before, he already had the serum in hand, because he actually used the explosion as a distraction rather than to damage the devices. So he was running away and she tagged him as he was leaving. He's in the middle of the chamber because for some reason now he decides to go, rather than to the tank full of extra super soldier serum, which was like sitting over there, or like, I'm trying to remember, because in the original movie there are serum pods on the rebirth chamber, but there's also some like in a case over there to the side. And in the movie, he takes him from that one, and because it's closer to the door, he shoots Erskine, and then he leaves. He tries to go up the stairwell, and Peggy shoots him in the arm. In this, he goes all the way to the chamber, which is in the center of the room, which is also like on an elevated platform now. Like, it's way bigger and like narrower. So like there's like a catwalk that leads to it that he has to walk down, when before it was just on a platform. So they've kind of like boxed him in arbitrarily by changing the geography of the room also. Like, now he's stuck there by the chamber, and Peggy's in front of him, and she shoots him before he can leave, before he can shoot her. So literally everything's different for no reason, because she can just kill him now. She failed before, but now she's successful because of reasons. So now she gets the super soldier serum, and you kind of get a similar scene that plays out in the movie of the colonel guy basically being like, "You're not good enough. We need an army. You're just one soldier." So they're taking her blood. And then he says you get a girl because it's worse than it was with Steve. Be grateful you're in the room. I needed an army, all I got was a girl. Be grateful you were in the room and not being brought up on charges. So it is literally the exact same scene from Captain America, except with two different people. Not Tommy Lee Jones and not Chris Evans. Now it's Bradley Whitford and Haley Atwell. And he's just being sexist, which I've watched Agent Carter. Yes, there's a little bit of that in that show, and that show is about that. And that's a good show that I think does that well, while still portraying Peggy as a competent woman, but not making all the men incompetent boobs either. They just are men in the 40s who are sexist, because they were. Like, they were used to women being in their place and not talking back. So yeah, especially in a government job like that, where yes, you have your federal agents investigating crimes and potential terrorism, yeah, guys were dicks. 100%. In this, he's not mad that she took the super soldier, he's mad that a girl took the super soldier serum. It's like, okay, maybe, but based on the fact that the whole premise that started off this episode was also massively like intersexual feminist, it's pretty clear where they're going. I don't think I'm reading too much into this. It's pretty obvious. All right. Make a real super soldier. Okay. He says something that is Mean, but accurate. Not just for the time, but also today. He says girls aren't soldiers. They certainly don't fight on the front lines. Now, women are soldiers today. They weren't back then. They did work in, like, some capacities within the military structure, but they weren't soldiers. They weren't considered soldiers. We do have female soldiers today, and I've known a few. And some of them did serve in not necessarily combat roles, but roles that required them to be armed and potentially put themselves in danger. But then he says something about them, like, breaking a nail, so he undercuts himself and, was obviously just being a sexist dick. But yeah, girls aren't soldiers. Sorry. Granted, Peggy should be the exception. She has the serum, of course, but it's just, they're just throwing more lines in to make you hate him because he's a sexist. Alright, Peggy's training. I've seen Steve do that before. Pretty consistent. Punches the punching bag off. And she's just breaking more stuff because she's mad. Oh, wow, that's a lot of weights in the wall. I forgot that the first time. Then they make a joke about putting her on an SOS or USO tour, which is exactly what happened to Steve. And then, so that's just a throwaway line, which again, why wouldn't they? Why didn't that senator approach her? I guess because they don't want a woman to be their Uncle Sam, but I can't come up with a good reason. Talking to Steve about him not being able to go fight. Yeah, and then the dancing line, which I guess did happen in this also, but that happened before the super soldier scene. Okay. Then we do this, and it's fucking mental. Alright, so wrapping up that thought. So I don't know if that scene still happened. I have to presume so, because that's the thing. Even though they've altered so much, presumably the whole point of this was it happens the same way that it happens in Captain America, except we alter one thing, just one, not a bunch of shit, just one thing, which then takes the story in a different direction. But they've already altered like 5 things that are all things that never happened and couldn't have happened based on the changes they made. So anyway, I'm going to assume that still happened, but they make it like they're making a reference to that line, which they are. But if this is the same-ish continuity, they had that conversation already, so they're just doing the dance line again. Like, some more. But not differently, in a way that's, like, cheeky, like the character's making a variation on it. It's like the writers are, and I don't know, that's weird. Anyway, then we get to this next part, where we literally do the beginning of the movie again, when it should have already happened. Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this again, because the structure's weird. It's not presented as flashbacks, but it's something that should have already happened. It's the scene where the Red Skull goes into the castle in Norway and finds the Tesseract. And it's playing out pretty much the same, but it's like, this should have already happened, because it was kind of the impetus for them basically doing the assassination mission on Erskine. It was like their last loose end. They found this thing that was going to like set them up. They got the Tesseract. They were going to make weapons with it. The only threat to them was Erskine, so they were tying up loose ends. This happens almost completely in the reverse. It's happening now, later. Meaning there was no reason to send the guy, because that hadn't happened yet. Now, in the movie, there's no direct line of dialogue that says, well, now that we have this, we need to deal with that. But that is the sequence of events that happens in, which is he resurfaces in New York after they've already found the Tesseract. So Zola and Schmidt, Red Skull and Arnim Zola, they find Dr. Erskine after they've gotten the Tesseract. But in this, that happened first, before they knew about it, but still sent the assassin. But it's not explained as to why that changed, and that's my point with this show, is you're supposed to change one thing, one pivotal event that makes the whole story different. Which could have been anything. Like, for me, it would have been like, Okay, fine. You want to have the whole basically like don't do the stupid her saying I'm not going to leave moment, but have the events play out differently insofar as what if the guy didn't wait? What if he didn't wait till Steve became Super Soldier? What if he shot Steve and Erskine and stole the serum and bailed? Then you could still have the story play out. Well, maybe not. I guess it would be hard to get Peggy into there. Maybe you have him kill somebody else. Kill Steve. I don't know. Steve dies is the point. But keeping him alive and then having him not become Captain America through arbitrary means that don't really line up. I don't know. But point being, this is all out of order. This should have already happened because it literally kicks off the events of the movie. Like everything is contingent upon this. Anyway. I do like Ross Marquand's impression of Hugo Weaving. Still pretty good. Okay, then that happens almost the same, but not again, because he finds the box, and then all the Nazis immediately just shoot the old man, which didn't happen before. There was like a whole scene and dialogue, and then Schmidt shot him. And again, everyone's dressed differently. Nobody's in the same place. There's just little tweaks here and there where it's like it's just inconsistent. It's like they didn't watch the movie. Where I'm like, you are Marvel. You have a copy of the movie, I assume. Like you could just do that at any point. You could just pop in First Avenger and just take notes, or you could get the guy who storyboarded it. I don't know, or the like. You could just watch the movie. Like you're just tweaking little details, and it just feels inconsistent. It's literally like you aren't. It's like a different universe. It's like you didn't watch First Avenger and you're not trying to follow up from there. You're just making up your own thing. I hate that line of dialogue. No, you're both crazy. Crazy people. Crazy, 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 crazy. Telling Peggy she's lucky to be in the room when she's not. Like, that's the thing, is they're just showing her a level of disrespect that is not consistent with what we saw in the first Avenger. Which is, again, I think maybe a consequence of having this guy instead of Colonel Phillips, because Colonel Phillips respected Peggy. Like, she was still subordinate to him. She was an agent. He was a colonel. It was his command. She worked for him. But she was competent. She was good at her job. People showed her respect. The only person who disrespected her was that guy in boot camp who fucking hit on her and she punched him in the face. Like, that's the thing. Peggy, yes, is still a woman in the 40s, and that stuff did still happen, but she is in a very unique position in that movie. Where, like, yeah, she alludes to, yes, it was very hard for her to get here, but what we see in the film, everyone respects her. Like, soldiers follow her orders, Steve respects her, Erskine respects her, Phillips respects her. Everybody treats Peggy like an equal. And then in this, even after she gets the super soldier serum, this other dude, Colonel Flynn, he's just like, "You're lucky to be in the room, lady. Shut up, woman. Go make me a sandwich." And it's like, that's not what happened, though. And you're supposed to be going off of what happened and how it's different now. And what's different now is different people are writing it who have no credits to their name and want to write about sexism and feminism. That's what's different. The story didn't actually change. The writers changed. And the writers are bad. Anyway. Ah, come on. There we go. Something about just the men. Okay, so Howard makes her a suit. He makes her a shield at a bar. Just hands it to her. So they're going after the Tesseract. I think that seems to be the. They're going after Zemo. Right, okay. They're going after Zola, and Zola has the Tesseract, and he's in a convoy, like, driving through Germany or France, somewhere in Europe, in, like, a city, like, a very populated area. And they're just driving through there with the Tesseract, which the Americans know about, and they want, for some reason, to get from them. That's not what happened, and there is no event to explain why that is different now. In the movie, they're just fighting the war, and it's not until Steve rescues everybody from the POW camp that they discover that Hydra's making energy weapons, and they still don't know how that is. They don't find that out basically until the end of the movie when Steve gets a hold of the Tesseract. And he doesn't even get a hold of it, it just fucking falls into the ocean. The Tesseract doesn't really come up with anybody but Hydra. They're the only ones who know what it is or how to use it. In this, they've just completely rewritten the history again and gone, yeah, they know about it and they want it, obviously. That's what happened in First Avenger, right? Right, Katie? AC, whoever. It's different for no reason. They don't explain why. There is no event that leads to that. It just happens. So now she's going to brutally destroy these Nazis in a way that looks a lot more like Wonder Woman than it does Captain America. Oh, yeah. Peggy's a fucking discus sniper, apparently, too. She's like 3 miles away from... She's up on a building or a statue, like on an arch or something, like miles away from this convoy, and knocks a dude off of his motorcycle from that far away, and the shield doesn't, like, go in a downward arc and, like, hit the ground. She just sniper shots him from, like, a million miles away. Which another thing, I guess is another thing that bothered me about the show, kind of belies the cartoony nature of this thing, where it's like, it's a cartoon, and it has, like, weird cartoon physics that don't line up with how it is in the movie. So I'm like, am I supposed to take any of this seriously, or is this just supposed to be a dumb, fun, turn off your brain, it's a cartoon, why are you overthinking it? It's like, well, because everything's different and doesn't make any sense. Her level of strength and power and what she's about to do to these guys is fucking insane. Like, Luke Cage, Wonder Woman levels of super strength and agility, and she can, like, basically fly. She's leaping around like Wonder Woman, because they were doing that weird thing where, like, they didn't want Wonder Woman to be flying or not, or they weren't sure if they were going to have her fly. So you can just, like, jump really far like the Hulk. This is not a super soldier. This isn't the peak of human physical ability. This is superpowers. Like, actual superpowers, super strength, super invulnerability, super agility, super jumps. It's a different thing entirely. It's a different character. There she goes. Flips down to the ground, does her cool pose. I think they made her boobs smaller from the promo. Can't prove that. So they're going to run her down with this truck. And she fucking stops a truck with her shield and flips it over her head. Captain America can't do that. I don't know why Peggy can do it. Because like I said, her being slightly bigger than Steve shouldn't have enhanced her strength at the point of being genuinely, like, Kryptonian. Like, she's not a super soldier. She's a goddamn alien at this point. Like, nobody in any version in the MCU who had the super soldier serum of any type, because there were multiple variants throughout the years, nobody was that strong. But Peggy is, because she's a strong woman. And then she does it again, literally almost the same way. Knocks a motorcycle over. She's been surrounded by guys and just taking them out. And she's acting like a dumb child. She's way too excited about it. She's throwing motorcycles at guys and blowing them up and killing them. And making weird cracks about murdering these guys. Granted, they're Hydra Nazis. No one's too sad. Just like 5 in a row is just comically slapping these guys with her shield back and forth. Like, they're just coming out of the side of the truck and she's going whap, 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 whap. And they're making a joke about it. The violence is cartoony. Like, more so than any thing in the MCU. Like, it's a joke. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Like, they're not taking it seriously. She's cracking jokes and, oh my god, I'm so strong. And she's, like, so giddy and childlike about it. Never seen her act like this before. These drugs made her 5 in her mind. They gave her the body of a man in the mind of a 5-year-old boy. I don't know why. They just did. She's totally different. She's completely inconsistent with her character. And that's what they do now. They just write every woman to be like a man. They take all these like traditionally toxic masculine qualities like arrogance, anger, cockiness, being aggressive, being really big and built and strong, and using your strength to your advantage, and they just put her. It's just a woman's head on a man's body to make her a man. She not just looks like a man; she acts like a man. It's the same thing they did with Teela in the Masters of the Universe. It's the same thing they kind of do with female Loki on Loki. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know why they do that. But it's just so goofy, and it's so totally weird too, because the movie was such a, I don't want to say it was somber, like there were some lighthearted moments, but it was taking itself seriously. It's a World War II movie. Like there's a little bit of lighthearted triumph when they're victorious, but like when they're in the fight, it's a war, you know? They're treating it like World War II and they're taking it seriously. And this, it's just a joke to her, like she doesn't care at all. And then there's this big Nazi, which they set you up for like we're going to get a cool action sequence with like another secret Hydra super soldier. She's like talking to her shield, like flirting with it. Fragile Fraulein, blah, blah, blah. Then she punches his knees out and hits him in the balls and knocks him out. Good stuff. Oh, and Zola's just sitting in the back of a truck. And she gets him. And she has the Tesseract. War's over, she has the Tesseract. So they just completely rewrite the movie. So now Hydra doesn't get super weapons, I don't think? I don't remember. I want to say they don't really, because everything happens completely differently. We'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, no, everything's totally different now. She just has she found it. She got the Tesseract, that thing that they didn't know existed, but they have it now. And they didn't want, but they have it now. And now that the Hydra can't make weapons with it. So, movie over. You're an agent, blah, blah, blah. Captain Carter. Not Captain Britain, but yeah, fuck it. She's promoted to Captain Carter. And then Howard Stark invents the Iron Man suit. 60 years early. Which, I gotta be honest, is kind of the coolest thing about this show. That's a cool idea. I like the World War II Hydra Tesseract-powered super suit. And somehow they know about Bucky being behind enemy lines with the 107th. Which they didn't know before, but they know now. For reasons. And they're going to talk about dancing. And that's cute. Like, they still have a romance, even though she's a big butch girl and he's a little skinny boy. She's just running up to a motorcycle and cracking jokes and punches the guy in the face. And then she's going to jump over the fence. Oh, no, she doesn't jump over the fence. She jumps through the fence with a motorcycle. And then just runs over a bunch of guys with a motorcycle. And I gotta be honest. Like I said, the violence is over the top and cartoony because she can do way more shit than Steve could. So she can do impossible things that don't really make a whole lot of sense. But she also just seems so gleeful about it. Like, she's breaking guys' legs and, like, running them over and blowing them up and lighting them on fire. And just, she's so vicious. Okay, so she goes to the prison camp, the Hydra factory, which again, they must not have done the thing because the Hydra agents all dress just like regular Nazis. They just look like SS stormtroopers, and they don't have laser weapons, and there's no big tanks or anything. But it is the same facility that they were kept in the movie. I guess a facility can be a facility, so fine, whatever. But then she goes to the prison cells where they were all being held in the first Avenger. Dum Dum Dugan and the Howling Commandos and all those guys are in there. And she's like, and I'm looking for Sergeant Barnes. And guess who's in the fucking cells with everybody else? Sergeant Barnes. He's in there. Just doing it. Just being captive. Not being tortured by Zola, which is how he ends up becoming the Winter Soldier later. So that just doesn't happen. So he's just in the cells now, I guess. And again, there may be connective tissue there. I don't know because they're not lining it up properly and showing you the domino effect of why everything's different now, because it's not. They're just making shit up. Because I guess, well, that's the thing. I don't know if that makes any sense either. I guess if they didn't get the Tesseract and make weapons out of it, they wouldn't have experimented with more super soldier serum, which is what they give to Bucky. I don't know. Or maybe they weren't doing that. That's a theory I heard. That's not confirmed. Whatever Zola was doing to Bucky in the first Avenger, he was like torturing him, I guess trying to get information out of him. I don't know. But point being, they're not doing that. He's just in the cells. It's just different because, so. Whatever. But he's also wearing the clothes he wore once he got recruited by Steve, the blue jacket and the whole Bucky costume setup. He just has that now. That's what I mean. Everybody just looks the way you expect them to look instead of what they would have been wearing at the time. And we're recreating the montages and the flashbacks and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just regular Nazi stuff. So I guess they don't have Tesseract weapons. She just blocked a tank shell with her shield. Which didn't explode for some reason. And here comes Steve with the big cool fucking Iron Giant Iron Man suit. Which is, like, it is cool. That is my favorite development. But it does kind of... It is kind of like, what's the plot now? You know? Because the U.S. have the Tesseract, and they're making weapons with it. Which was the big threat of Hydra in the first movie. So because that's not happening, what exactly... They're just fighting World War II. But, I don't know. Makes a joke, blows up a tank full of men. No remorse. Peggy is a remorseless killer now. There's a difference between being willing to kill, but also laughing at the bodies of the dead, which is what she does throughout this whole thing, and it's really disturbing. She's like a total psychopath. Like, it's not Peggy. Let's hear it for Captain Carter. What an inspiring name. Just call her Captain Britain. Okay, this sequence upsets me so much. So there were montages in the first Avenger of them essentially taking down Hydra, a lot of different action sequences, but it's like big and dramatic and triumphant music. You know, it's a World War II movie. They're trying to be heroes. They're trying to be triumphant. That's what we're supposed to get out of it. So they go through all that. In this, there is this horrible, blood-curdling, psychotic, like, upbeat montage of Peggy and Steve killing thousands of men to happy-go-lucky, upbeat 40s jazz. And it feels weird and wrong, and it's uncomfortable to watch. Like, I don't... It's trying to convince me I'm having a good time watching them, like, that's the thing, not just defeat the Nazis, brutally murder and destroy the Nazis. Like, she does some shit in this sequence that is genuinely terrifying. It's like kicking them through walls, just not decapitate them, but like full on hit with the shield. Yeah, hitting them in the face with it. That was like a 50-foot drop with the shield straight down on a mortal man's face. He's dead. She broke his spine with that. Okay, this bit with the planes. What she does here just feels so horrible. So she attacks these German planes, and just every chance she gets throws a man off out of the plane to his death. I know they're Nazis. I get it. But she's just gleefully throwing men just hundreds of stories into the ground. This guy, she hits him like 4 times in the head with the shield. She could have stopped at 1. He was already done. Like, she's bloodthirsty, but they're playing this upbeat jazz, and it's fucking horrifying. Ugh. It's horrible. Oh, okay. And the scene where he betrays the Nazis' Red Skull. Again, happening way later than it should have. And also confusingly because he doesn't have the Tesseract, which was his edge. That's why he was able to get out from under Hitler. So now he's just found a completely unrelated, different magical thing he's going to use to take over the Third Reich and eventually the world. Yeah, so Hydra's still low tech. And they're just showing this wooden thing he has, which they use later, but I don't remember how, and I don't know what it is, and they never explain, because it's a completely new plot element that wasn't in the first Avenger. So that's what I mean. When you have to add stuff in, you're not doing a what if, you're just telling a different story in World War II. Which is fine if that was the premise, but that's not what if is. What if is supposed to be you playing with the Legos, pulling the Jenga piece out. You're supposed to see what the effect is if you tweak this one little event, and that's not what they're doing. And they do have a nice line about it's not a nice line. Something about being in the room and women and blah 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 not being acknowledged, which is cool because Steve can relate, which is a nice scene, but also again acting like Peggy isn't a respected leader, which she is. Their relationship is still sweet. They didn't totally ruin that. But Howard's a clown. Yeah, Howard's the worst. They ruined him. He's annoying. Okay. Oh, I need to pay attention to this because this confused me. Okay. I guess that's not terrible, but it's also kind of confusing. So they're doing the train thing again, which they did in the movie. The point of the train thing in the movie was that Arnim Zola was on the train. They already have Zola. They need Zola to get to Schmidt, because Schmidt basically never leaves his mountain fortress and they don't know where that is. So they haven't been able to find him and track him down because Hydra's the big threat. So Hydra's what they're assigned to take down. So that's their goal. That's how they're going to end the war, more or less, is take down Schmidt. That's in the movie. So that's why they do the train heist in the movie, where they're supposed to be trying to kidnap Zola for information. In this, that exact same train scene happens on that exact same mountain pass in Switzerland, on the same train, except Schmidt's just there and they're just going to go get him. That's what they think, anyway. So why does this even still happen? Why is there even still a train scene? Because it's something you remember from the first Avenger. But it's not relevant anymore, because that should not be a set piece. That shouldn't be there because it changed. The reason for that train being there at that time is gone. It shouldn't be. That train shouldn't exist. But like Bucky's alluding to, he smells. It's fishy. Doesn't make sense why that train's there. Alright, so the Iron Rogers is trying to slow the train down. And then they still need to zip line down to the train when they could just literally have Steve just stop it and he could go in. But they need to go do the thing from the movie. And Bucky almost falls off a cliff and makes a joke about blah blah blah. His arm getting ripped off. Which, by the way, the Howling Commandos and Bucky following Peggy, I guess it's... Well, nah, never mind. I'm just going to keep going. Still following Steve. Steve's still on the team, so I do get why Bucky's, And she did rescue them, so I guess that's not too different. The train's got a bomb on it. And it blows up. And Steve is seemingly killed. He's not. But the train blows up so cleanly, in such a perfect line along all the cars, for them to jump off in a cool way. It's not a structure nitpick, just a thing. Alright. And then they think Steve's dead. There's an avalanche? I don't remember that. Whatever. It's irrelevant. So then they're mad about Steve dying, obviously, and she's yelling at Flynn and says she should never been to the field in the first place. I guess. And now they're going to interrogate Zemo. They interrogate Zemo in the most lazy, annoying way possible, which is, in the movie, we get to see Colonel Phillips being a colonel, being a strategist, being a smart man who deserves to be in charge. He intimidates him, but he does it, practically. He's negotiating for information from a prisoner of war. He's trying to get information out of Zemo, or Zola, sorry, I keep getting them confused. So he's offering him incentives, he's offering him dinner, but then he doesn't want it, eats it from him. He's doing the thing, he's interrogating him. He's doing it subtly, he's not doing it by beating him over the face, he's just, being smart. And eventually he convinces Zola to give something up. Then eventually Zola gets recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. And this Peggy just kicks the shit out of him. Just beats him up till he talks. Like a man would do. And then they do the final briefing for the big assault. Okay, so again, with the whole throwing in a new plot element that is not at all related to the movie, which Zola also shouldn't know about based on the progress, the sequence of this episode. They captured Zola, first thing. That's the first thing that she did. That was her first mission. Then in between that, Red Skull found an old wooden door or something that has some Norse crap on it. That's going to open a portal or something. So, they're going to get a Cthulhu, basically, which is weird, because it's not really in Norse mythology, but that was the basis for what they were doing before. So he's going to open a Cthulhu portal. How Zola knows that, I don't know, because I don't think that was the original plan. Colonel, you're lucky to even be in the room. Which she says to him after he actually makes a good point, which is why they went after Steve and why they set up the train trap. But then she gets mad at him and just insults him for reasons. Which is still confusing to me, because he's her fucking boss. He's the colonel in charge instead of Colonel Phillips. He's in charge of this OSS team that her and Steve and the Howling Commandos are on. You're fired. Don't talk to me that way. I'm a colonel. Court-martialer. You know what I mean? But no. She's the strong woman and she gets to say things and there's no consequences. Because feminism. Alright, I'm gonna go do the thing. She can fly! She jumped off a forest floor up to a castle wall. The top of the castle wall. She can fly. She's Wonder Woman. And she just punches everybody so easily. I don't know. It's just, the way she moves is so insanely unrealistic. Yeah, and she can just break through fucking stone walls and punch through sandbags and just throw 5 men at once. I don't know why she's so powerful. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any tangible sense. Wait, why does he have the Tesseract again? Sorry, okay. It was powering the Hydra Buster. They got it back when they captured Steve. Just kidding. That's consistent. So he still needs the Tesseract to power a totally different thing that was not in the original movie, which is a... So it had nothing to do with the thing he found. That was just telling him how to open a portal. But now he's actually using the Tesseract, the Space Stone, the way it's meant to be used, which is to open a portal. Okay, fine. They didn't establish that in the movie as something they were even aware of. But he knows it now. So it can do that, but the fact that he figured that out, I guess that was his alternative, because he didn't, use it to make energy weapons. So he had to come up with a backup plan. I don't know. Peggy Carter, Agent Carter, intelligence. Great strategist. Brilliant woman. She's a fucking moron now, because when they're running through the castle, they go to like a corridor with a bunch of doors in it, and they're like, we need a plan. And she's like, I don't need a plan. I have a shield. You're dead. You're dead. Even Steve has a plan. Steve got smarter when he took the serum. His brain was able to function at a higher rate of speed. He was able to memorize more info. He was able to process it faster. He was able to strategize better. It made every part of him better. His brain worked more quickly, more efficiently, so he was able to better formulate, a coherent plan that didn't have very many holes in it. Peggy's just, I don't need a plan. I got a shield. I'm going to go fucking punch him. I don't understand it. I don't know why they have to assassinate every character they touch, these new writers. And here comes Cthulhu. Which is a bad plan. He couldn't make super weapons, so Red Skull was just like, I'm gonna bring Elder God, that'll win the war somehow. Oh, Red Skull just immediately gets crushed by it, too. Oh, maybe we do need a plan, Peggy, you're right. And they find Steve in the suit. And they put him in the suit and recharge him and make a dumb joke so he can fall on his face. So it worked, but then it also didn't work because it does have a charge, but it also fell off the thing because comedy, because pratfalls are funny still, 100 years later. Yeah, it's just tentacles. It's just tentacles coming out of a hole. It's very Hellboy. So Howard says a dumb thing. They're trying to come up with a solution to basically close the portal. He says, I might be able to transpose the blood, something science stuff, because he forgets what things do. He clearly understands the technology but can't articulate it because he's a dumb man, I guess? I don't know. But then Peggy knows. Peggy, the not scientist or engineer or technician of any sort, knows exactly what he was saying. And says it before he does. Because she's smarter than him. Because she's smarter and better and beautiful and brave, even though she has no tits. Everything's in German, which Howard can't read for reasons, even though I think he can. Actually, that's not true. In the movie, he said he couldn't read German either. Peggy's just this... She's a literal superhero. She's like Wonder Woman. She's somehow not getting crushed by the tentacles the same way the Red Skull was, even though they should be just as strong. Okay, so they're reversing the polarity, because, science words. But Steve shows up, trying to help. And then immediately gets hit into a wall by a tentacle. And becomes useless. Bucky making lame jokes. And yeah, it's still completely useless. The Hydra Buster suit can't do shit against this thing. Oh yeah, it has a weird, crazy Sonic Cthulhu scream, which hurts everybody's ears but Peggy. Peggy and Steve, because he's in a suit and she has super ears. Steve just immediately picks up every human and flies them out of the castle with no damage. And then goes back to watch Peggy do the amazing, beautiful sacrifice thing, because she's so strong. She can push like a football field's worth of giant monster tentacles. Steve runs out of power and falls in his face again because he's useless. And they say the dance thing because we have to make it rhyme. Big explosion, portal closed. She goes into the portal with Cthulhu, which presumably, because it's the Space Stone, leads to another planet or another... I don't know if it can open other dimensions. It's never been discussed. I don't think that it can. It can open portals through space. It's the Space Stone. It can teleport. That's what it does. So she sends it somewhere. She goes through with it. And, then the portal closes and all the equipment's broken and they can't fix it. Even though they have the Tesseract, and Howard could probably open a portal. It takes them to... Well, that lines up, because that's actually what happens in the movies, too. It takes them till Avengers to essentially crack the code, be able to use it. And now that they've actually seen that it can do that, they know it can do that, which they did not know in the movies. Howard just knew they used it to make energy weapons, so he basically used it to make energy weapons, which is the Iron Man suit. Which I do like. That is a good callback. The fact that the Hydra Buster suit is Tesseract powered, so technically so is Iron Man suit, because that's what the arc reactor is. And it's Avengers, and the portal opens, and she comes out with tentacles and a sword and shield. And I don't know if any time's passed. She's the same age. It seems like no time has passed for her. And now it's Avengers. It's 2012 or whatever. Doesn't even say the date thing. She says, we won the war. Doesn't even talk about Steve. Okay, so Uatu comes back and spouts a bunch of bullshit. He says, her one choice altered history and won the war and changed the world and blah, blah, blah. No, it didn't, because that one choice didn't do anything. That one choice was completely arbitrary, and a bunch of other stuff in the story had to also be altered to make this possible. So it's bad writing. Sorry. Whoever wrote it, they were just like, this will just all be fun. It'll be fun in games, and it'll make people laugh, and it'll be cool action, and everyone will shut up, and no one will notice that I didn't actually plot out a sequence of events, because it doesn't follow the formula of What If, which is you have to pick one thing, one pivotal thing, that if that doesn't happen, everything else happens differently. Now, like I said, I picked up a few more things on the second watch that could be excused to a degree, except for the big ones. There's very big ones. So the little ones are... Okay, so the big one, the Tesseract thing, happened way later. Because in the movie, it happens first. That's it. That's the inciting incident of the movie. That is what sets Hydra down the path, and that's completely separate than what happens with Erskine. Those two things aren't related, except for the fact that they catch on to the fact that he's working on another super soldier experiment, and they send an assassin to kill him and sabotage him and take his work. But that happens first. That's the first thing that happens in this episode. Which then... a thing that didn't happen in the movie has to happen so that Carter can get the Tesseract, which is... they have to take Zola through a populated city with the fucking Tesseract, which didn't happen. It didn't happen because in the movie, Schmidt got it. Schmidt found it and took it back to their mountain lair up in the Alps. So why was Zola transporting it, and where was he transporting it to or from? It didn't need to do that. That's the source. That lab up in the Alps, the Tesseract never moves from there. It never leaves there. They learn a way to transfer its energy into other sources, and then that then gives way to their big factories that they have all over Europe. So that should never happen. That shouldn't have happened. And it's also the reason why the movie doesn't happen. Well, the whole beginning of the episode doesn't happen, where the whole thing in the lab with the assassin, he shouldn't even be there, because that shit hasn't happened yet. Why have they discovered him before they found the Tesseract? Why are those two events flip-flopped? For no reason. Because Peggy said a thing halfway around the world nobody heard before she said it, because she didn't do that, because that's not what happened, because the whole thing's out of order. Everything's out of order. The space stone is now a space and time stone, because she didn't age, or she went to a planet where time doesn't pass. I don't know, but they don't explain it. That's the problem. They do all these things that don't make any sense, and they don't tell you why. They just let stuff happen because that's what they wrote, and they didn't think about it. But it's also because they don't care, because that's not what they're doing. They're not having people scrutinize over their scripts and say, hey, does this make logical sense based on what we've done before, or with any kind of logical storytelling? Not really. It doesn't. But it does make women look super cool. Because we forced it to, because they're totally different now for fucking no reason at all. I wish I had a more clever wrap-up or way to rationalize this or make my points, reiterate them more concisely. It's not What If. It's not the way What If's supposed to be. It's a bad story that is just pushing intersectional feminist politics. It's not... I will give it a little bit of credit insofar as it doesn't try to ruin Steve Rogers. Like, not really. He has a big clunky suit that fails a lot, but that's not on him. They don't ruin the character of Steve Rogers. I appreciate that, because a lot of these things, they ruin Loki, they ruin Sam Wilson. They don't ruin Bucky, but they treat Bucky pretty well. Except for in this. Bucky's a dumbass in this, but he's okay in Falcon and Winter Soldier. WandaVision's a good show. WandaVision's the one I don't have a problem with. I like that show a lot. Other than Monica Rambeau being a little too understanding of Wanda kidnapping and brainwashing a town and torturing them for a week, it's a pretty tight show. I don't have a lot of problems with WandaVision, but this is what they're doing now. They're hiring young female writers who don't have a lot of credits to their name, who don't have a lot of experience, who aren't very good writers, because they're women, and because that's Disney's agenda. That's what they did with Star Wars, is what they're doing with Marvel. They just want to put as many women in positions as possible, whether or not they've earned them. It's not a meritocracy anymore. They weren't hiring the best writers like they did back in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 when they were making good movies. Because back then it was experimental and they needed the best. Now they've got $1 billion and they can just do whatever they want and push whatever politics and agenda they want. They don't have to make anything good. They can just put whatever they want on Disney Plus and you'll probably watch it, like I've been doing out of curiosity. Thank God I don't pay for Disney Plus, but yeah. I don't have anything else to say. It's garbage. Sorry if you watched it. Appreciate it if you watched this. Watch me talk about it. Alright, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.